Alright, we are walking through the Aigi Tunnels, and Ai in Chinese characters is for Aichi Prefecture and Gi is for Gifu, because this is an old Meiji-era tunnel from a railway that was intended to connect the city of Nagoya, or the prefecture of Aichi, to Gifu. And it's got kind of an interesting history. I mean, it was built back in like 1895, and along what was called the old Tamano Road. And it got lost and forgotten really by history, which is kind of interesting, right? But going back to why the tunnel was built, well, Japan was modernizing, right? Arguably westernizing, which was forced on Japan by the United States when they came in the 1850s and said, open your ports and trade with us, or we're gonna do some nasty things. And other Western countries, of course, followed suit. And Japan went on this journey of modernizing. And so in the late 1860s, building this railway was part of that process. Now, what I find really interesting is that, well, one, you walk through, if you look at the walls here, you can still see the soot from the coal that would have been burned in the steam engines, which is kind of neat. But in particular, post-World War II, this railway was built, but what happened was they needed a high-speed railway, and so this was shut down something along the lines of 1966, and it was forgotten. There were people walking through here apparently like in 2005, so almost 40 years later, and they found these tunnels which had been grown over, and they said, this is kind of cool. And so we're technically, this is part of the city of Kasugai at the station Jokoji, if I'm not mistaken. It's in the suburbs of Nagoya, but it's in an urban area. I can't believe that people just forgot about this, but apparently that's the case. And so there were some locals that saw the value in maintaining this heritage. I mean, these buildings were part of that red brick building heritage, which was brought to Japan in the late 1800s by a couple of Germans, like Wilhelm Bochum, I think, and Ende was the surname of the other person. And they brought, the technology, I guess you'd say, or the skill to build these red bricks. And you see them throughout Japan. I mean, Yokohama has akarenga, which is the red brick warehouses where they stored things that were coming into Japan on ships. And Hakodate has its own akarenga, red brick buildings. The Marunouchi terminal, I guess, of Tokyo Station, same idea. So you saw this all over Japan, and it really does show that, Japan was modernizing and, arguably saying westernizing in the late 1800s. By the 1930s, of course, Japan's relations with the West started to sour for a lot of reasons. But of course, that red brick technology, if you will, not only was it brought here and adopted, but it lasted, right? And I just think it's so fascinating that to think for 40 years people forgot about this little trail we're walking on, and we're going to walk through a few of the other tunnels. And thankfully the people that were in the area decided to preserve this heritage that really is important. It's not incredibly old. I mean, we're talking about 140 years, but it is important. So anyway, this trail's only open up for about 9 or 10 days a year, and then it's closed to the public, so I'm taking advantage of walking through. And we're walking through another one of the tunnels. Again, you're going to see on the walls the soot from the old steam engines, and the rocks make it a bit noisy. I think it's interesting that this, when they first found these, they were doing construction on the platform at Kachigawa Station, which is probably about 4 or 5 kilometers from here. And that's when people started thinking, wait a minute, there's something more, I bet. We started looking for these tunnels, and here we are today. All these people walking through, kind of enjoying it. It's quite dark in here too. I can see why they shut it down during the evenings and throughout the year. Speakers in there for the sound effects. That's kind of fun. that's one of those old steam trains, and the steam train's whistle would have sounded like. That's cool. All right, so this is the third tunnel of the trail that we're allowed to walk on. You can see an example here of an old rail line. It's fascinating to think that this narrow strip that we're all walking on had an actual steam locomotive speeding through it, which is pretty cool. If there's anything that the Japanese do well, of the many things the Japanese do well, it's building trains that are fast and efficient and convenient. And we're just going to keep walking through here. Now, apparently the red brick, by the way, it comes from I think it's the nitrogen oxide, maybe sulfur oxide. I'll have to write the correct thing there, but mixes with the red clay, which gives it that red color. Hence, aka in akarenga, because aka means red in Japanese. And it's getting dark. Be careful, I can't see the little children that are around me. I actually do recommend that you bring a torch, a flashlight. You're walking through here, and I can see why now. And this event, which is only held for 9 or 10 days a year, it's really great for a family. Now, the part that we're walking through right here is apparently the only bamboo stock, I think. Anyway, it's a little forested area with bamboo. I'm going to walk over here on the left, which is pretty cool because it is in contrast to everything else that you can see surrounding it. That's kind of neat. Once we walk past these people, I'll step to the right and get a closer look. That's pretty cool. And bamboo is incredibly strong, which is why it's used in construction throughout Asia. Here looks I don't know if this is one of the old railway signs or not, but apparently there was 8 kilometers of railway along here. I'm assuming that the part we're walking along right now is the Momiji Trail, which Momiji means maple leaf, because you can see the little maple trees here and the leaves. Apparently this section is the one section that has this. Again, kind of like the bamboo stand that we saw over there. This is unique to this part of the trail. And this is the Shonai River, actually, that you're looking at. A major river that runs through Nagoya. Look at the nice colors here. That's pretty cool. I would love to come here when you see the reds and yellows and browns of autumn.